Hey guys, it's August 8th, very beautiful day here, and today I want to discuss a topic that I think some people here may know, others not, and that is this concept of MGTOW. MGTOW has been kind of a movement that's been growing recently, and just so everyone knows, MGTOW stands for Men Going Their Own Way, MGTOW. You'll see this often. It's becoming a very big keyword now on the internet. There's a lot of guys in Western countries primarily, but also in many other countries, fragments of people, mostly men, that are abiding by this lifestyle. Some people refer to as kind of a involuntary celibate lifestyle. Others just see it as a mindset of basically dating very short term, not getting real involved in relationships, not being in long-term relationships, and definitely not married. It definitely works for certain guys, but for others I don't think it does. And there's plenty of cases and situations to show for this. Here in Estonia, MGTOW actually I think is kind of the default lifestyle for most foreign guys. I've met many foreign men here, and I would say about 90% of them are typically not in any kind of relationships. There's a handful that are married and very few that also do have girlfriends, but most foreign guys here are not married. They don't have girlfriends and they don't have long-term relationships. And this is just the norm, you could say, of being in Estonia today as a foreign guy. The irony though of this is that I lived in Russia for some time. Many people who have followed my channel know this. I lived in Russia for 7 months. I had a girlfriend there, and most foreign guys who live in Russia end up finding girlfriends and often wives. Now what makes this a unique situation is that Russia is actually only about 120 miles from Tallinn. Estonia actually shares a border with Russia, so it's very close. And for me, coming from Chicago, it would be like the border from Chicago to Wisconsin. It's incredibly close. You can reach the border in like 3 hours by bus. It's very close. And the irony, as I said, is the fact that you go to Russia and it's like many guys find girlfriends honestly within weeks, within a couple months. I found my ex-girlfriend in about 2 weeks when I lived in St. Petersburg. My brother found his girlfriend, I think, in like maybe 3 weeks. It takes very quick if you're a high quality guy. The irony though, as I was saying before, is that in Estonia it's nothing like this. It's completely different. It's actually incredibly difficult for many foreign guys, even compared to Western European countries like France or Spain. These bigger Western countries, for many foreign guys, would actually fare better with the dating. This is why I said MGTOW, men going their own way, is kind of the default lifestyle right now in Estonia for foreign guys. This is probably being practiced by 90% of men. There's men from all over the world who live here. It's obviously a small country. There's a lot of international exposure here and just a lot of international movement. Now it's interesting because often the MGTOW movement in other countries often came about as a result of men choosing this lifestyle. It's actually often not involuntary. Many times men actually choose to do this MGTOW lifestyle, and it's a very solitary lifestyle in existence. It's very interesting when we look at many of the countries where MGTOW is a more practiced movement, because when we look at a country like Estonia, economically it's not very well off. Yes, there is a sizable percentage of wealthier people here compared to other Eastern European countries, or at least on a percentage basis of the population. It's still not remarkably wealthy country. Yet at the same time, this MGTOW lifestyle is the norm for most foreign men. This is kind of the current time that we're in. Just as in many other countries, what's kind of brought about this huge surge in this movement is the difficulty in dating, mostly on behalf of women. There are sometimes problems on the men's side, but usually it's more from the women's side. And one of the major influencers, I think, is the influence of dating applications. Dating apps have made it incredibly difficult and unusual, the relationship scene worldwide, and especially so in smaller countries like Estonia. Online dating has made the traditional dating environment exceptionally difficult. It's had so much influence on so many countries, and I think the smaller the country, the worse the effect has been in this regard. Some of the tiniest countries of Europe, like Estonia or Luxembourg, it's made it nearly impossible for a foreign guy to meet a decent girl. And when I say decent, I don't mean just external beauty, I mean internal, external, the whole package. It's become exceptionally difficult to find any quality online. Unfortunately, in a lot of the smaller countries, especially in Europe, many relationships among the domestic population come about through social circles, through networks like work, education, family or friend connections, mutual friends. Many of the same networks are not accessible or don't present opportunities for foreign men. That's why many foreign guys end up having to resort mostly through dating apps, maybe through means like nightclubs or bars, but this really isn't so effective. These second to alternatives aren't really that effective and usually don't result in relationships. What we see here now is a large foreign population of men that are essentially part of this MGTOW category. Maybe it's not voluntary, maybe it's involuntary. This is where it's became real interesting, because if you ask most guys who came here 20 years ago, they would have said it was pretty good dating in Estonia if you're foreign. This is simply not the case today. And as I said before, we go 100 miles across the border to Russia. It is a different world in Russia. I can't say that enough. It is a different world. I lived in Russia. You'll see an environment that's remarkably different than Estonia with regards to dating, relationships. Other aspects of society are similar, other things are different, and dating is one thing that's quite different in Russia. So many guys have kind of became stuck with having to maybe find someone online dating, which, as I said before, doesn't really work. And they often end up in this kind of MGTOW category classification, which isn't a big deal. I always tell people, we live close to other countries. That's one very positive thing about being in a small European country, that you have several neighboring countries nearby. I mean, you can get to Latvia, to Russia, to Finland, to even Belarus in a very short amount of time. All of these countries are pretty close, nearby, and you can travel to, and we'll find a dating environment that is completely different. The MGTOW lifestyle in these countries, even amongst foreign populations, is very non-existent. When I lived in Russia, I would say 95% of the men that I had met that had been living there for at least 2 years had a girlfriend or spouse. This was the norm, quite the opposite of what you find here in Estonia. It's very interesting when we think about these aspects of society. I believe that MGTOW will continue becoming more the norm. I think it's actually going to become more the norm amongst domestic population in Estonia, amongst Russian-speaking Estonians, Estonian-speaking Estonians. I think this is actually going to become quite the norm here. But I also do see a proliferation of other groups that are coming in. I think we're going to start seeing more of the maybe Southeast Asians, mail order brides become common here for Estonian men, or alternatives from lesser economic countries, we'll say. These are just my thoughts on this topic here, and just give me your feedback below. Thank you.